Hello everyone and welcome to the Wumpa Classic 2 halftime show. I'm Katodi and today I'm joined by the other members of the Crash team, Dessert Monkey
Hey.
and Cola Pro.
Hello.
And today we are basically going to go over what's already happened in round 1. We're about halfway through now. We got about a week and a half to go. We're going to evaluate kind of all the matches that have happened and tell you all about like kind of the things that have gone on in the past week and a half since the tournament started. So, as you know, there are 30 competitors in the Wumpa Classic Championship 2, but these 30 competitors, 3 of them were actually not what we started with. So if you noticed in the competitors video, I had listed 3 reserves in that video. It looks like all 3 of those reserves are going to be part of or already are new competitors of the tournament. So a couple of days after the tournament started, Luca had become unwell. And he thought that he had acquired some kind of infection. So yes, he decided that he would drop out. He'd already been talking about dropping out anyway, kind of before the tournament started. He always seemed to be kind of a bit indecisive about it. So he got replaced quickly with the first replacement, which was CoolPro195. The reason why we replaced them with him is because we judged that they were kind of sort of equal skill levels. Maybe CoolPro was a little bit better than Luca. But it became a bit unfortunate when a couple of days later, Morgan Avery decided also to drop out after he had done one of his races, which is on the channel against Yoga Manyo. He decided that he didn't like speedrunning Crash.
Well, Crash 2 and 3, not Crash 1. But he cannot just play one game in the whole tournament.
Oh, he
doesn't
right. Mind speedrunning Crash 1, but not 2 and 3. I didn't know that. Yeah, because he did seeds on every game, I'm pretty sure, and he got decent times.
Yep.
So he also did a similar thing in the Dragon Racing World Cup, although he dropped out after he did the seed, not before he'd done a race. Anyway, so it actually probably would have been better if we put CoolPro in instead of Morgan, given that Morgan was a tier 1, and if CoolPro probably did the seeds, he didn't do the seeds because he was busy with stuff. If he did the seeds, the seeding challenges, I should say, he would have been probably in tier 1 or 2. But unfortunately, we replaced Morgan with Haytam14, who has now done 2 races, which are not uploaded yet. We'll get to them later. We now have also King Europe 1. He's already kind of expressed wishes to drop out in Group F, but he hasn't kind of like been very clear about it. So we put in someone called Polygonal Pixum, who was also in the competitors video, to replace him. Basically, whoever does a match first will get to stay in Group F, and I believe it probably will be Polygonal Pixum because Christian has just been completely unresponsive. I think almost everybody else has done a race. There's a few people that haven't, which we'll get onto later. But I'll show you right here the demographics. I think this is one of the most diverse tournaments we've ever had. I'll let you read it out, actually, Cola, because I know a lot of these people you're responsible for getting into the tournament. So
That's right. So we have 2 Asians in the tournament. One is maybe from Antarctica, but that's besides the point.
Tuni originally hails from Antarctica. He's a penguin. So
He's a penguin.
Yeah, so he's I guess ethnically Antarctican, but he lives in.
He represents Asia.
That's right.
But even though he's from Antarctica.
Yeah.
We go 11 Europeans, which I'm mostly responsible for. I also got some people like Haytam, but he's from Africa.
We also have TK and his brother, also from Africa. So we've got a Moroccan and 2 Tunisians.
So I have 1 South American, which is Vinny, and we also have 6 North American people in the tournament.
And 7 Australian, of course. There's actually more Australians than North Americans, but that's not really too surprising. That's kind of typical. I think we should move and just talk about the groups, the current standings for the groups. So Group A, there's been 4 races done for this group. Crash 1596 has been seemingly quite busy and also has a terrible sleeping schedule. So I really hope he's able to do his races, but so far he hasn't had the time to do them, unfortunately.
And he also went camping, made it even harder.
So topping the table is Dark Lizard with 5 points. That's 2 wins, 1 loss. Toto has 2 wins, has done 4 points. Smudgy and Crosstown Express are tied for 3rd and 4th, and Matt has not done much yet. So the first Group A race was Dark Lizard versus Smudgy, and it was a Crash Bash match, and Dark Lizard won that one. The second race was Crosstown Express versus Dark Lizard in CTR, and Dark Lizard managed to win that one.
Even though Dark Lizard chose to do Hot Air Skyway for one of his tracks, when he could have chosen a shorter one.
Toto showed up, and he did really, really well against Dark Lizard in Crash 2. And I think that match, I think most of us can agree, was the best showing of skill by two competitors so far in the tournament. Toto raced Crash 2 against Smudgy directly after, and pretty much you could say he whooped him, but that wasn't really unexpected, especially after Toto's performance in the previous match. So yeah, Toto's looking incredibly strong so far, but yeah, that's not too much of a surprise. I think I put him as like predicted like second or something, or third, I can't remember. So Group B, I'm actually topping Group B at the moment with 2 wins and 0 losses. Graveyard Magician is second with 1 win and 1 loss on 3 points. Then TK and Yoga are both on 1 point. And Haytam, as I said, soon we'll have some races up. They're being recorded, they're just not on YouTube yet. But yeah, I think we all agree that third place will be very competitive for that group. On the first match, I beat Graveyard Magician, also known as the International Man of Mystery, by a few points in Crash 3. Then Graveyard Magician beat TK handily in Crash Bash, signaling that second place for Group B is definitely in his sights. Then a race which was uploaded actually very recently, which I very much recommended, I think it's a very good race, was between me and Yoga. We were both quite mediocre. And yeah, I managed to win that one, but only just. I think Group B is the most competitive group when it comes to getting the top 3 places. And as you probably know, the top 3 places is how you can move on to round 2. Unlike Group A, which really is the group of death with Toto, Dark Lizard, and Crash for 1596. Both of them are very skilled Crash runners. So I actually feel like, I feel like I kind of got out of this a pretty sweet deal with the fact that Morgan left and was replaced by Haytam, who probably hasn't got the same skill level as Morgan. And I really feel bad for Smudgy and Crosstown Express in Group A, who have to deal with 3 people in their group who are quite good at crash running. So very unfortunate, but that's just how it ended up.
Yoga can pull off and get third in the group. I think people might be underestimating him a bit. If you watched the race he did with Crash Bash Legend, he was pretty decent at Crash 1. Like, he wasn't that bad at all. TK also, depending on the goal, depending if he trains for the race, he might pull us some victories as well.
Okay, so moving on to Group C, which is a very interesting group. We've got Lucas Bolton topping the board at the moment with 3 played, 2 won, and 1 loss. As usual, Lucas Bolton gets his races done quickly. And he's done pretty well on them too. We've got Averso, 2 wins, 0 losses, Indictive, 2 losses, The Gangster, 1 loss, and we've got Cooper195, who was the replacement for Luca, who hasn't played a match yet, but I think he's going to do one on Monday. So the first match was Averso against Zindictive, and it was in Crash 1. Averso managed to win that pretty handily, but Zin managed to get 1 gem, thankfully, so it wasn't a total loss.
Then we have Lucas Bolton versus the Gangster, and they played Crash Bandicoot Warp, and it was a very close race, but it came down to knowing the exploit.
The exploit on Dingodile.
On Dingodile, exactly, yeah. Then we had Averso versus Lucas Bolton in Crash 1, and they both did quite well, but Averso showed us that he was better, and he beat Lucas Bolton.
Yeah. Averso is pretty good at Crash 1, it seems.
And then we had Lucas Bolton versus Indictive, and Lucas quite handily beat Zin in that, even though Zin did pretty decently.
Yeah. He was very, very frustrated, but he still kind of
he did
kept
good
going,
at that race.
And it was a good performance. But yeah, Lucas Bolton definitely a bit of a surprise. He was the tier 2. But I think he's done pretty well so far. I mean, Averso very difficult competitor. As everyone may remember, I predicted Verso would win the tournament. Um, Honestly, with very little information, just from his seeds alone, basically. But
Yeah.
he's shown to be very good at Crash 1 so far, and I think he's going to do another Crash 1 race as well, which is no problem with that.
I also want to add that Zindictive has been a very good fellow to when
Yeah.
it comes to sportsmanship.
And I don't think he's been practicing either, so he's been doing pretty well given that he hasn't played the games in ages and he just kind of
That's right.
just does them, yeah. He's also agreed to pretty much every goal that I've mentioned pretty quickly, so there's that too. The Cool Pro, the new addition to this group, how do you think that he's going to kind of change the landscape of Group C?
He's gonna take one spot out of the first 3 spots in the group.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think it's going to be unfortunate for the Gangster and Vindictive because I think they're going to miss out. But I guess we'll see. The Gangster's only done 1 race and Vindictive's only done 2. We don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, good luck to everyone in Group C.
Right, now we have a Group D. So
Group D, and we got the Psychic Gamer leading on 5 points. He's won 2 and lost 1. We got Placey Hull on 2 wins and 0 losses actually. Dacorn on 1 win, 1 loss. EP on 2 losses, and Kiefer only with 1 loss.
the first match of Group D, Psyche Gamer versus Kiefer. Psyche Gamer and Kiefer played Crash 2. The Psyche Gamer handily beat Kiefer in that race, even though Kiefer showed that he might pose a threat in this group when it comes to the third.
He was pretty serious about his playing. He wasn't kind of joking around or anything. I think he was trying his best. So, yeah, bit of a different side of Kiefer than I've seen in ISGP. That's for sure.
Then we have EP versus Placey Hall in a Crash 2 race, and Placey, to not anyone's surprise, Placey Hall handily won that. Then we have the Psyche Gamer versus Placey Hall in a Crash Team Racing race, and it was a very close race, and with a lot of technical issues.
A lot of which just on Psychic Gamer's end, because this were just was constantly dropping him out. Despite all technical difficulties, he managed to get pretty close, but unfortunately, Placey Hall pretty much took the win on that one.
His screen sharing stopped working, and it was freezing all the time.
Oh, I see.
They had to reset the laptop.
So I was talking to Psychic Gamer the other day, and he was I don't know, he was a bit upset about how that match ended up. So we may see
A rematch between them.
Yeah, it may happen. We'll see. But it probably won't happen until like the rest of the round is probably done.
So then we have the Psychic Gamer versus the Acorn race in a Crash 1, and it was quite close until the Acorn choked a bit in Hog Wild, which he wasn't expecting, and that cost him the win basically. So he also showed that he poses a threat in when it comes to the third place. And then we have EP versus the Acorn, and the Acorn won that race in Crash 2 handily. And so far, that's all the matches that have been done in Group D.
It's kind of probably, I'd say, the most kind of average group of the tournament so far. Like, it's not really incredibly difficult, but it's definitely not easy either. And then Kiefer has only done 1 race, so he can definitely maybe turn the tide. EP, I don't know about that, but I guess we'll see. So Group E, there's really not too much to say about this. There has been one other match that has been done but not uploaded to YouTube, which is MTV versus Vinny Huber. Stick around for that match. That was a really good race. I think everyone really enjoyed that one. But all we have so far is James Jones versus Fremond. It's 1 win for Fremond. That race was hilarious, and Fremond only won by technicality, which was a tiebreaker. In fact, it's the only race so far that has hit the 45-minute limit. Every other race has been within time. So that race, we invented this tiebreaker, which was just whoever got furthest basically wins, no matter where they ended up at the end. So like Fremond was basically behind James Jones by the end of the race, but because he had managed to reach Temple Ruins in a race to beat Koala Kong, he won the match. So pretty ridiculous, but that marks Fremond's 3rd win against James Jones in the tournament's history. MTB did really well in the seeds. Vinny Huber also did pretty well in the seeds. I think they're both pretty good. And Toonie SA remains to be seen how he'll do. But yeah, I definitely think the 3rd place is competitive, but the first 2 I think are pretty much solid for Marcus and Vinny. But you know, that we might see some surprises. We'll see.
So then we have the final group, and that's my group, Group F. Yeah, we have Abdul at the moment that has gone 3-0 so far, 3 wins and 0 loss. Then we have myself. Then we have Dantafant, who has played 3 races and won 1 race. Then we have Dr. Monkeyman, who has played 3 races as well, and he lost all of the 3 races so far, and he has 3 points. And then we have Christian and Polygonal Pixen, and for those 2, they haven't done any races yet. Polygonal was placed in this group a few days ago, and we're very recently, and we're waiting to see who of those 2 are gonna do the match first, as Ratchet said earlier on.
Group F actually got their matches done pretty quickly. They had all their 6 matches that have currently been uploaded. I think by like Monday or something they had been done or something. Like I remember the Wumpa Cast was talking about that actually.
The first match that went up is Dantafanta versus Abdul in a Crash Team Racing Nitro Field, and this is the first ever Nitro Field race in the community. Which makes sense since the game's 1 year old.
It's a bit of a weird first match. We haven't had anything. We haven't even had the Insane trilogy after it. But yeah, I guess it was appropriate given that game is only recently released.
Danta tried his best, and it was quite close for some time. Even though Danta had the faster loads, so it was kind of hard to tell. But Abdul managed to win that race. Then the next race that happened was Dr. Monkeyman versus Abdul in Crash 2. Abdul handily won that race, even though Monkeyman showed that he's quite capable of speedrunning Crash 2.
Perhaps not of speedrunning Crash 1 because
they were doing a Crash 1 NST race, but they ended up switching to
it was
Crash 2.
It was Insane Trilogy. Oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah, that, and there's like technical complications on top of that, with just getting it set up before they can even do the match first. But they eventually got it done.
The next match that happened was Colo Pro versus Abdul in Meme Crash Huge Adventure Race. And for me, this race went terribly because when I was practicing, I did a lot better. But since I get nervous sometimes when I race a good opponent, I fucked up basically, and Abdul was guaranteed a win. And the one thing that's interesting with this race was that the original goal was it was different, and when Abdul finished the goal, it was exactly 10 minutes long. But we decided to make it longer, just in case it wasn't long enough.
So it was just over 10 minutes and a little bit of an anticlimax from the, it should have been the epic rematch between Abdul and Kola of the grand final qualifier from the previous Crash Bandicoot Wumpa Classic Championship. But yeah, it was very, very short and quick race, and Abdul trounced. It seems that whatever game you give to him, he does pretty well, it seems.
Then we had Danta Fanta versus Dr. Monkeyman in Crash Team Racing Bingo, and I believe that's the first Crash Team Racing Bingo race that has been done.
Yeah, but they picked the same column, so it was kind of a bit lame, but it was still a very close race.
Unfortunately for Monkeyman, he lost because he was a little bit lost in the home world, in the hub world.
That's right, yeah, I forgot about that. Oh dear.
But and Danta managed to win by barely like 15 seconds. And I think, in my opinion, that this race decided the third place for this group.
You might be right about that, unfortunately for Dr. Monkeyman.
But we have yet to see how good Polygonal Pixen is, so...
That's true.
So next race we have is me, Cola Pro, and Danta Fanta in an epic Crash Bash Japanese version, of course, race. It was kind of a meme race, and I chose Danta into my group just so we can do this race. Basically, I basically won by a few minutes, so I handily won that race.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of like Abdul. Doesn't matter what Crash game you're playing, you're decent at it, no matter what. Even if it's a meme game like Crash Bash. I don't know, maybe it's not a meme game, maybe I'm shafting it too much by calling it a meme game.
As long as it's a PS1 title, I guess I'm pretty good at it. And the last race of this group so far is me versus Dr. Monkeyman in Crash 3. and I won handily. But it was very entertaining, I think, because both of us went into a level we
Yeah,
don't need to enter.
they both went into Future Frenzy despite the fact they didn't need it at all to complete the race. So pretty funny that
That's
they
right.
were on that same level. Oh no, two ways more than one. So group F was pretty much the most proactive group, but unfortunately they've kind of stalled because of Christian and this new replacement, who I think has been a little bit busy, but you know there's no rush. So the only people who haven't done a race yet are Polygonal Pixen, Toonie SA. Toonie has had problems with his computer, so that's fair. He's also just generally a very busy guy. And we have Coolpro195, who also a replacement and was supposed to do a race a couple of days ago, but he's the kind of guy who'll get them done pretty quickly. I hope he doesn't rush other people though. Last week we have Crash1496, who I really hope does come. I mean, I want to see him do races. You know, he was in on a Spear in a 7. It's great to have him back. I really hope that he, when he gets back from his camping, he does some races and joins in, because I really want to see how he is now after this many years in Crash. And Toto picked him for that reason. He wanted to see how rusty he was. Hope we don't have to resort to anything, Matt.
At the time this video goes up, we have a certain amount of games done, certain amounts of times basically. So we have one CTR Nitro Fuel race, one Huge Adventure race, 4 Crash 1 races, 8 Crash 2 races, 4 Crash 3 races, 5 CTR races, and 3 Crash Bash races so far.
Yeah, so CTR has been quite popular in this tournament, and Crash 3 has not gotten the popularity I feel like it usually has. Like Crash 2 is just like 8 races. That's amazing actually that so many people have wanted to do Crash 2, but it's something to do with, you know, them believing that it's like the definitive Crash game because it's like more platforming and sliding and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the last tournament it was more just Crash Bash, like more than I thought there would be.
That's right. Yeah. There was a shit ton of Crash Bash. Yeah.
We have to thank partially Lops and Salamence Master 1 for those many of such a number of Crash Bash races from the first Wumpa.
I think like by the end, Cola was like, "There's too many Crash Bash races. This is too much. More original trilogy." But
That's too much.
I do want to see more Crash 1 races. I think we remarked early in the tournament that there were quite a few, but it kind of just dropped off somewhere into the tournament. So I kind of hope that picks up again. I'll definitely be doing at least one Crash 1 race in round 1. Okay, so the last thing we want to talk about is the ROTIPOT. So this is a word that I created because I'm pretentious, and it stands for Race of the Indiscriminate Period of Time. So we're basically saying our favorite match in the last week and a half, the first half of this round 1. I'm going to start, and I'm going to say my favorite match was Zindictive versus Averso. It was like the 3rd match done or something like that. First match of Group C.
Right, since we
Picked the goal for this race, and I wasn't there for it. It was actually just them two in that race, no one else. Yes, I really liked seeing them like try again and again and again on the lab, and Vindictive tried a million times and he finally got it. And then it was only a very low scoring game. I think Verso only got like 4 gems to Vindictive's 1. But it was very fun just seeing people play Crash 1 and get kind of frustrated by it, but also kind of get through it and yeah, very enjoyable. How about you, Adam? What was your favorite match that has happened?
It's kind of tied between like I think like Dante versus Dr. Monkman, the bigger one, and James Jones versus Ramon. One was close and one was just more entertaining than anything on how it just panned out. But if I were to pick one, I'd probably be Dante versus Dr. Monkman, because like it was being a race. You didn't know how it was going to go first, but then it pretty much just culminated where just like one set of objectives, and it was kind of hard to tell who was in the lead until like near the very end.
They were doing the same column, but they were doing different squares of the column, so that's where like Bingo's so interesting that even if they're doing the same thing, it can still be kind of really tight and interesting. So yeah, I agree, that was a very good race.
Yeah, it pretty much just as soon as you started to realize what was happening, like it just started escalating. Like, oh wow, this is actually a lot closer than expected. But yeah, that would be my pick.
I have also two races for me tied basically. I have Lucas Bolton versus the Gangster and Dark Loser versus Toto Zigam. But if I have to choose one, I think I would go for Lucas Bolton versus the Gangster, because that was such a good race. It was a Crash 3 race, and it was, it was very close, and there were a lot of people in the voice call, and that made it more entertaining and everything.
It was kind of funny and hilarious. It did come down to Dingadal, but then like after Lucas had finished, they still couldn't beat Dingadal for ages, so it actually didn't matter how close the match was, which kind of made it funnier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I agree. That was a really a good race as well, and definitely one of my favorites.
One of them knew how to do the high jump and one didn't. It's pretty much what it came down to.
That's what it came down to. That's right. Yeah. And Gangster was actually really good at Crash 3, which made it kind of interesting why he didn't know how to beat Dingadal that way. Yeah, I guess that just shows that some people learn one thing and don't learn something else. Okay, thank you everyone for tuning in on this halftime show. I'm very much looking forward to seeing the rest of the races in round 1 and then of course round 2. So next week, next Friday, we are going to start a period of if people have not organized goals or races with people, we'll be giving people goals, and then we'll be asking them possibly to record sessions on their own, and then another person, when they're available, can record their own session. We don't want to resort to doing that because obviously it's not as fun as actually people being there live doing their races, but that may happen if we're if we're getting close to the deadline and some people have not been available to race live. So yeah, just there, I reckon just the best thing that everyone would do would be plan some goals, plan some races, even if you aren't doing them for a little bit. And then I also hope that some of the people who haven't done so many races will do some soon as well. We'll probably be back at the end of round 1 to talk more about the races that have happened between now and then, and also then to talk about round 2 as well. And we'll tell everyone to check out the Wumpa Cast, which is kind of like a companion to our kind of show. But yes, this has been the Crash team. Thank you so much for watching.
Goodbye.
See you later.